So there's a little bit of controversy surrounding this next figure that we're taking a look at. It's one that I've been really looking forward to, one that I've had available for quite some time because I got this figure back at Celebration. But of course, I could not bring myself to take him off that beautiful metallic Episode 1 card. So today we're finally taking a look at Episode 1 Obi-Wan Kenobi, and this guy joins the ranks of characters across the Star Wars mythos that have lost a hand because this figure has extra hands. This guy is missing some stuff, which is really interesting. It's not all that common to see that happen for Black Series, but we will endure and we will move on. So we've got him here in our standard Black Series packaging. Figure in the window, artwork down there in the corner. Obi-Wan is number 85, and we have got that artwork and a write-up on the backside. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our Episode 1 Obi-Wan Kenobi, the figure that is at the source of a great controversy surrounding missing hands. And for my money, I really don't care too much about it. It's not really a big deal. I'm certainly not going to harp on it too much in this particular review, but we'll talk about accessories when we get there. Let's jump right in though, take a look at how this guy moves around, see what he can do. I think we're not going to be exactly too surprised with what he can do, but the head can go backwards. It can go down, and you've also got a moving neck as well, if you can't tell right away. So you go backwards and forward, and then you can rotate, and then you do have a little bit of attitude there for, you know, a little bobble action. Arms go out, they rotate, no bicep swivel. You've got a single jointed elbow, get you a little better than 90 degrees, and then of course it rotates. You've got a rotating hinging elbow. You've got a waist twist down here, which is a ball peg, so you can go backwards and forwards a little bit. A little side to side, better than I expected. And then, of course, rotation. Legs go out, so pretty good. They kick forward all the way, back a decent bit. Thigh cut, double jointed knees. It's incredibly ugly, but it works. And then you've got your rocker, and you've got your hinge down at those ankles. So pretty standard stuff for a Jedi figure in the Black Series line, but he does move around pretty well. No real issues with articulation as far as I'm concerned. Now, as far as the overall look and feel here, I think we have a pretty solid figure. I am going to compare this to the figure arts just to give you an idea of what they look like standing right next to each other. But I think this is a pretty good figure, especially for a $20 price point. The sculpt is definitely there as far as that face. And then, of course, the photo reel is definitely doing this thing a lot of justice. Now, as far as the rest of the figure, though, it is still pretty standard stuff as far as Black Series goes. So you've got mostly just cast plastic pretty much everywhere. So the boots, and then you've got a little paint. You've got your cast legs. You've got your rubbery waist piece down here. You do have your painted belt, which has the peg hole for the lightsaber, and then all the little adornments, the pouches, all that kind of stuff. You've got your kind of billowing sleeves down here, which do make his arms look a little fat. There's really no way to avoid that. I don't have to like it, but that's what we have. And then you've got all the layers sculpted into the robes, and then of course a bunch of wrinkles. What I do wish we would have gotten is, you know, they did it for Mace Windu. I don't understand why we didn't get it here. He has a robe. He should have had it included, because I'll tell you right now, that's what I really, really want, because I have the figure arts, so I would really love a way to differentiate this figure from the figure arts on my shelf personally by giving him a soft goods robe, because I really think they did a solid job with that Mace one, and I don't want to have to go buy another Mace figure just to get a robe and then have a figure that I'm not going to probably be able to get rid of. So, you know, that's my problem, but I really wish that they would have included it. Otherwise, I think the body on this figure is pretty nicely done. I mean, it very much looks like Ewan McGregor from the neck down in Episode 1 form, and they did a good job. There's no real paint flubs or sculpt issues here. It's just a solid, but still kind of basic figure. Of course, the head sculpt is really why we're all here. We know what to expect when it comes to Jedi bodies, for the most part now. Prequel Jedi bodies, we're pretty familiar with them. Qui-Gon, I think, kind of set the stage for what we would get, and along with Mace Windu. But the head sculpt on this guy, coupled with the photo reel, I think is really nicely done. And again, we'll do a comparison to figure arts. I don't think they're too far off, personally, but this looks really good and fits in pretty well with this line. You do, of course, have the PADAWAN braid here, and it's a separate piece. It actually pegs in behind behind his ear. You've got pretty nice paint applications on the face. The face is a tad shiny, I'll say. It definitely does glisten in the light, but the paint applications where they are nicely done. Those eyes are pretty straight and clean. The lips are nicely done. And then you've got his rather lightish hair, and I always forget that his hair is pretty light in the first movie, so it definitely does fit there. And you've got his little baby ponytail hanging out the back. So I think the head sculpt is really nicely done. I mean, I definitely catch Ewan McGregor's likeness here more often than not, so they definitely succeeded in bringing that through. And then, of course, coupled with the photoreal, makes for a solid entry in the newer, more realistic figures. And then, of course, we have to do a comparison to our SH Figure Arts Episode 1 Obi-Wan, and you know, this one is definitely a little older at this point, but I think it still holds up pretty well. Like, especially in this shot right now, under the right lighting circumstances, in some ways I think it looks better. I think that the paint applications on it are, well, there's more of it, but in general, I think the sculpts are pretty even. There's a little bit about this one that I think in certain light looks more like Ewan McGregor, and then in certain light I think this one looks more like Ewan McGregor, but I think they both are pretty solid. Yeah, I still think that the Episode 3 Figure Arts is going to be the best Obi-Wan in general for my money, but in terms of this particular version, I think they're not too far apart. They just have a little bit of a different complexion, and then of course you do have the weird metallic hair on this one, which is definitely not a good thing. And then of course you're always going to get better articulation with the figure arts, but for someone who doesn't do figure arts, you're not really missing out a whole lot, I think. You know, if you didn't want to spend the money, then this is a great modern $20 figure that has a pretty solid likeness to Ewan McGregor, even compared to, of course, to a much more expensive import figure. And then as far as accessories goes, this guy comes with exactly what everybody knows he comes with now, the singular accessory, his lightsaber. And we've seen this guy before, but, you know, just for consistency's sake, you know, you've got your standard Obi-Wan Kenobi hilt. You can remove this blade, and then you can peg this into his belt there. But it's got pretty good paint applications on it. The blade is a nice deep blue. It looks really good. And then, you know, as far as the overall issue with the missing hands, it doesn't really bother me so much, because honestly he doesn't do that pose in The Phantom Menace anyway. It's not canonically accurate as far as the movie goes. I don't necessarily need it. I can understand why there was some mild outrage regarding things that were in the Celebration version but not appearing in the final mainline release. At the end of the day, it doesn't really do a whole lot for me either way, because I'm just going to have him standing there with his lightsaber in one or two hands. If I want to go with that two-finger pose, I've got multiple figure arts that can accomplish that. So I don't really think it's that big of a deal. I don't really think it's missing too much for this. If anything, we need a reissue of Episode 3, and then you can get that hand. So overall, there really isn't too much to gripe about with this one. My main takeaway from this is that he has a bit of a glossy face. Otherwise, though, the figure is pretty solid, and I, again, don't care that he's really missing those two hands that come in the Celebration version. It makes no difference to me at a figure level, because I wasn't going to use those anyway. I can understand where the concern comes from, but you're not going to get any of that from me. Otherwise, though, this is a fun figure. It's got a good sculpt, it's got a good likeness, it stacks up to the figure arts in many respects, and it's a good Obi-Wan figure. There's really not much to gripe about. My main problem, really, all things said and done, is that we don't have a Qui-Gon that is good enough to go along with this one, because they look kind of goofy standing next to each other, with one not having photoreal and the other having it. Otherwise, though, if you're an Episode 1 fan, if you're a prequel fan, if you're just an Obi-Wan fan, you need to get this figure. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So that's going to do it for this look at the Star Wars Black Series Episode 1 Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.